Okay, so flicking. The first thing that people need to do when they flick, often people death grip the blade a little bit tight. So instead of trying to move the blade with their fingers and pulling the blade down like this so that it can move in their hand, they try to do it with just the wrist. So if you just do it with your wrist, you can only get as much movement as your wrist flexibility allows. But if you hold it with your fingers a little bit more, and you have strong fingers, they'll take a while to build up the strength, you can actually get quite a bit of range of motion with the foil. The second big mistake people do when they flick is they try to generate force from their elbow. So I've got the target set up quite high, like very tall person against me, not even on guard, I guess. So instead of they'll try to get the blade to bend by doing this sort of thing. And yeah, I guess you could, if you really crank on it, you can get the light to go off, and you can sort of hit on the front of the chest. But to go over the shoulder this way, oops, I'm gonna wreck my box. It's not really gonna happen because the angle is just not there. Well, if you really crank on it, and maybe that's why your clubmates are mad, because you're probably doing that. On the other hand, if you go high and make sure your hand ends up high and you let the tip roll, let the blade roll down sort of out of your hands, just like by having the loose fingers, you can actually get quite soft flicks from a much higher angle. Well, that was just resetting, I think I would have hit. You don't have to go too hard. I've seen quite young kids scoring flicks just by having their hand high. So you need to make sure that the hand ends up high and the tip rolls down. So you're not doing this, you're doing this, like you're dunking a basketball or something. So it's quite hard to do that if you're used to generating force with your shoulders and your elbows. Most of the time when I'm teaching someone new to flick, they'll do this, trying to get the force that they want with the blade down, because they're trying to come from their shoulders and their elbows. But naturally that means the pivot point has to be way too low. So you want to reach up, oops, not hit the ceiling, reach up and pull the tip down with your fingers. So hand high, tip down. Hand high, tip down. And if you're strong with your fingers, you can do it even like without any arm motion. It's way more about the angle than it's about the force. So da 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 da, hand high, tip down, make the flick. There was one other thing. Oh yeah, sometimes people want to see where they're flicking, but obviously if your hand's above your head, you won't be able to see the top of the shoulder because it's above your eye line, right? So you're not. A lot of people sometimes then start going, like they throw their body up to try to see where they're hitting. You have to sort of. It's the same as when you're hitting on the flank or hitting somewhere else. You have to let that go. You have to imagine where the tip is going. Imagine where your hand is. So you can still sit low and on guard, and your hand goes up, and you just have to trust that your tip's going to the right place, I guess. Or just use your just sense of positioning of your hand, whatever it's called, whatever that sense is called, positioning sense, to put the tip down and where you want it. So to sum up, use your fingers, lots of rotation from the fingers, and you have to do the wrist too. It's not just the fingers, it's as much as you can get. Make sure your hand goes high and the tip drops down and you're not trying to look there. And if you can't get enough force just by pulling with your fingers, you can sort of use the forward motion of your arm to let it roll over. So I'll try to do it without any fingers, just to let my arm go. So if you just time it so it sort of unrolls. Yeah, I guess I'm pulling a little bit, but just time it so that the extending motion of your arm is what throws the blade over your wrist and lets it go. You really don't need much force at all. Oops. Of course, also, I guess one more thing is you got to get the distance quite right, just like I missed there. If you're trying to flick and you're too close, it's obviously not going to work. If you're too far, you're going to fall short. So you really have to have a sense of where your tip's going to drop. On top of the shoulder is easiest. If they start leaning forward, that's when you start going deeper in the back. I know some people that can get it from really close, but they really crank on it. And I think if you're at a point where you're really cranking on it close, that's when you start changing lines and you come up and do other things. So yeah, hand high, drop the tip.